Nummer 41, kleine Spiele, Partnerübungen, wie ringender Kreis, Schiebe- und Ziehkämpfe im Stand, Hahnenkampf, Oberschenkel abschlagen, aus dem Takt, Füße tippen, aus dem Takt, Hände tippen, mit Winkelstütz. Boden-Weltkampfformen. Partner 1 dreht Partner 2 von Bauch in Rückenlage. Widerstand von Partner 2. Angriffsverhalten durch Schieben und Ziehen am Rumpf sowie Verteidigungsverhalten in der Bauchlage. Widerstand, Bauchpresse. Mit Armfassung, Verteidigungsverhalten, Widerstand, Bauchpresse. Mit Beinfassung, Verteidigungsverhalten, Widerstand, Bauchpresse. Mit Arm- und Beinfassung, Unterlageverhalten, Widerstand, Bauchpresse. Oberlage, Unterlage. Partner 1 in Oberlage bringt Partner 2 Unterlage aus Bankstellung in die Bauchlage. Schieben und ziehen. Mit Armfassung. Mit Beinfassung. Mit Arm- und Beinfassung. Reaktion, Oberlage, Unterlage. Bank, Aussignal. Aufstehen, nach vorne wegkrabbeln, nach rückwärts wegrutschen, wegkrabbeln, seitlich wegrutschen, wegkrabbeln, in die Bauchlage kommen.
Der letzte Punkt. Stopp. Gleich nochmal. Stopp.
Reaktion auf Angriffsformen, Schrittformen. Angriff ohne Kontakt, Ausfallschritt. Reaktion, Rückstellschritt. Angriff ohne Kontakt, Ausfallschritt. Reaktion, Seitstellschritt, rechts-links. Angriff ohne Kontakt, mit Ausfallschritt. Beingriff innen, Beingriff außen. Reaktion, Rückstellschritt, Anreißen, Block mit Beinstreckung. Angriff aus Kontakt, Ausfallschritt, Angriff innen, außen, Reaktion, Rückstell.
R. Balance and body control games, quickness and change of direction games, and strength games. Balance is distributing your weight evenly to maintain control of your body. Balance directly correlates with agility. And balance is essential in sports which require the athlete to react quickly. Without body control, an athlete will not be successful. These games will improve the athlete's quickness. Athletes that develop quickness in different directions will improve in their sport. Strength is a very important aspect in wrestling. The games listed will help the athletes to develop strength in very important areas while having fun.
When you start off your season and your practices, it's good for teaching hand fighting. It's good for teaching body position and stance and movement. The way the game is structured, you can break your team up in partners, and the goal is to stop the other person's leg. And you can have it games up to 2 or 3, and then you can switch partners so you can have a variety of partners. And look at the sun on the feet. You can have them distributed all out throughout the mat, depending on how much space you have, but they do need a little bit of room, and they need a circle or a boundary where they have to push each other out. They start in the center of a circle, and the goal is to push the other person outside the circle. The first game we're going to look at is break down the table game. In this game, break your team up in partners. One's on all fours, and the other person will be on top, and the goal or the objective of the game is the top person is going to try to flatten out the bottom person. So the bottom person is somewhat like a table, and the top one person has to break them down any way they can, trying to get them to their stomach and hold them in that position. You line up the whole team on one side of the mat, and then you select one person that goes in the middle of the mat, and he's the bulldog. He'll yell out British Bulldog, and then all of the athletes, all the wrestlers will have to crawl on their hands and knees to the other side to be safe. The person in the middle will stop somebody and try to turn them on their back. Once they turn somebody onto their back, that person joins them. On their hands and knees, and he's the or she's the horse. The other person can't be touching the mat. One will sit onto the horse will be the rider, and the horse's goal is to knock the person off his back and while staying on his knees, and the person on top, his goal is to try to stay on top of the horse. And the horse, one's on top, and the horse and the rider are a team, and they're going to try to knock the other team's riders off their horse. Side, you'll give each of them a number. So one set of partners will be a 1, next set will be a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5, all the way through until everybody has a number. You put an object in the center of the mat. It could be a ball or a towel. Then the coach will call out a number, and whoever has that number will race out and fight for that object and bring it back to their team members. This can continue on until you go through each person on the team. You can change your object as the game goes on. It's up to the coach, and this game can go for quite some time.
The goal of the wrestler's handshake game is to learn motion in a stance with contact. Two wrestlers lock by grabbing each other at the forearm, right arm to right arm, or left to left. Once in this position, wrestlers should use good forearm control and motion to go behind the opponent. The wrestlers should use their free arms to grab behind the defender and reach for the far hip. The goal of the caged up game is to teach wrestlers how to move and fight through contact. 5 or 6 participants stand hip to hip in a circle with their hands around one another's backs to form a cage around one wrestler. The cage can be shifted only left and right with the hips and legs, and wrestlers must keep their arms intertwined. The wrestler in the cage must get in a good stance with motion and fight through the gaps of the cage to get out. The goal of the coiled springs game is for wrestlers to learn the correct way to take an opponent down with a single leg. It also teaches the defender how to fall to his stomach and face a defender properly. One wrestler controls a defender's single leg. The single leg is high and the attacker maintains a stance with the head up and in the defender's chest. The defender works on balancing and returning to a safe position quickly. The defender does not receive a control point. The attacker changes levels and drives the opponent to the mat using his single leg control. Once the defender falls to the mat, the attacker continues to control the single leg and maintain his balance while standing over the defender. Without the help of the attacker, the defender springs back to the safe starting position. He must use his free leg and hands to coil up and spring back to his feet. As a variation, this game can be a timed process, or it can be a race against two other wrestlers. The goal of the bull riding game is to teach wrestlers the proper bottom position and movement. Divide a group of wrestlers into pairs. Start with one partner in the down position, pretending to be a bull, and the other sitting on the bull's back near his hips, feet off the floor, pretending to be a cowboy. On the whistle, the bull starts spinning in either direction and changing direction. The cowboy must ride the bull for 10 seconds without putting his feet down or falling off. He can hang on to the bull. Award the cowboy a point for a successful ride. Award the bull a point for knocking the cowboy off. You can make the game easier by allowing the cowboy to put his feet down. Or if you want to make the game harder, don't allow the cowboy to hold on. The goal of the foxtails game is to work on wrestlers' neutral position and movement. Divide wrestlers into pairs. Have each wrestler hang a sock or short towel from the back of his shorts to be the tail, 12 inches out of the shorts. Each wrestler tries to pull his partner's tail off. Award a point each time a wrestler pulls a tail. You can make the game easier by lengthening the tail. To make the game harder, shorten the tail or allow wrestlers to use only one hand. The goal of the bone fight game is to work on level change and movement. Divide wrestlers into pairs and give each pair a towel. Have each wrestler hold one end of the towel without wrapping it around his hand. Using only one hand, the wrestlers try to break each other's grip on the towel or knock each other off balance. Award a point each time a wrestler breaks his opponent's grip or his opponent's knee touches the mat. You can make the game easier by awarding a point each time any part of the opponent, other than his feet, touches the floor. To make the game harder, you can shorten the towel. The goal of the crickets and wickets game is for wrestlers to learn how to initiate the proper level change. Wrestlers work in pairs. One wrestler shoots through a stationary partner's legs, that is, the wicket. Then the shooter leaps back over the partner in a leapfrog motion. The goal of the knee tag game is to work on level change and penetration. Divide wrestlers into pairs. Have wrestlers face each other and try to shoot in and tag the inside of their partner's knee. Award a point for each knee touch. You can make the game easier by having one partner tag and the other defend without using any hands. To make the game harder, count only tags to the inside of the knee. The goal of the sneaky snaps game is to practice snapping and moving an opponent with a head tie. One wrestler starts with a head tie. His goal is to be sneaky and attack an opponent with a snap down instead of a shot or leg attack. The attacker controls the head tie and will circle and move the defender. The defender cannot use his hands for balance or shoot on the attacker. The attacker can either shoot a leg attack and score a takedown from 1 point, or snap his opponent down for 2 points. The goal of the whizzer game is to control an opponent's motion. Two wrestlers kneel side by side in a 9-foot circle. In this case, the wrestler in blue is applying a whizzer to the wrestler in red. The whizzer tries to drive the opponent out of bounds or throw him to his back. The other wrestler does the same. The common mistake wrestlers make is to step over a whizzer, which causes a wrestler to fall to his back. The goal of the rescue mission game is to practice lifting technique. Divide the group into teams of 4. Start with 3 wrestlers on one side of the mat and 1 on the other. The single wrestler, that is the rescuer, runs across the mat, lifts one of his teammates, and carries the teammate across the mat. He then runs back and does the same for each of the remaining 2 teammates. The first team to move all 3 teammates across the mat scores a point. Alternate rescuers until everyone has had a chance to play that role. To make the game easier, decrease the distance of the carry, or let the rescuer drag the teammates only halfway across. To make the game harder, require teammates to play dead and be limp during the lift and carry. The goal of the log lift game is to learn proper lifting with an emphasis on leg and hip power. 2 wrestlers have the same lock on each other. Each locks in reverse lift position around the opponent's body. To get in the lock, each wrestler places his right leg to the inside of the other's right leg, then leans forward and locks his hands just above the other's waist. On a set mark, each wrestler tries to lift the other without tripping. The goal is to take the opponent off his feet. The goal of the Stuck in the Mud game is to improve the wrestler's ability to score takedowns and the defender's ability to battle against leg attacks. One defender kneels on the left leg with the right foot on the mat far in front of his knee. The attacker wraps his right arm, armpit deep, above the shoelaces of the kneeling wrestler. On the start, the defending wrestler sits back on the attacker's shoulders. The defender's goal is to keep weight on the attacker and keep him from gaining control of his far leg. You can make the game harder by allowing the attacker to stand up with the defender's leg and trip the defender to the mat. You can also perform this game using a variety of takedown situations, such as a low single elevated, high C, high C opponent on hip, double leg elevated, and double leg opponent seated. The goal of the switcheroo game is to work on both the back step and lifting. Divide wrestlers into pairs. Have partners lock up their arms over and under each other, chest to chest. Without breaking the grip, each wrestler tries to knock the opponent to the ground. The person on top scores a point for each knockdown. To make the game harder, don't allow tripping. The goal of the toe tackles game is to practice takedown attempts using an attacker's legs and feet. Each wrestler grasps the opponent's shoulders, essentially at arm's length to each other. Neither wrestler can move or pummel for position with his hands, nor can he shoot or snap down the opponent. Points are awarded by use of the feet and legs to trip the opponent to the mat to score a takedown. Only successful trips or foot props are scored. The contact can be increased by allowing the wrestlers to begin chest to chest in an over-under position. The goal of the spider fight game is to get the wrestler to work on the back arch. Divide the group into pairs. Have both wrestlers face away from each other and assume a back bridge, with only hands and feet on the floor. By grabbing, pulling, or pushing their partners, the wrestlers try to knock each other out of the bridge. Award a point for each knockdown. You can make the game easier by having wrestlers use a crab position instead of a spider position. Or if you want to make the game harder, allow the wrestlers to use only their left hands to fight. The goal of the pummeling around game is to increase wrestlers' activity and awareness from a close pummeling position. Two wrestlers are placed chest to chest in an over-under position, that is, the pummeling position. Once in this position, the two should use control of their underhook and overhook to lift and throw the other to his back. This helps the athletes develop lateral throws, headlocks, hip tosses, and arm spins. The goal of the Switchers game is to learn how to reverse control of an opponent and practice breakdowns. Place two wrestlers in any of the following positions: down on all fours, side to side, or facing toward each other's ankles. Each wrestler grasps with the inside arm and lifts the near foot of the opponent, wrapping at the shoelaces. Or wrestlers can grasp the nearest thigh. Each wrestler grabs lever control on the near thigh of his opponent, or wrestlers can do this from a standing or kneeling position. At the start, each wrestler has the same control over the other. The goal is to scramble into control so that the person that comes out on top must break the opponent down to his stomach. These are common positions that allow switches and reversals to be gained in wrestling matches. The goal of the bulldozer game is to improve breakdown skills. One defender kneels with both legs on the mat, hands resting on the knees, and the laces of his shoes to the mat. He should be in an upright position. The bulldozer cannot lock his hands around the kneeling wrestler's waist. On the start, the bulldozer tries to flatten the defender to the mat. The defender's goal is to maintain the kneeling position and move to a stand-up. You can make this game harder by having the wrestlers grapple from the standing position, allowing the bulldozer to lock around the waist and return the defender to the mat. You can also make the game more difficult by teaching the bottom man to peel hands and face the bulldozer. The goal of the face-off game is to learn the correct hip movement from the bottom position. The bottom wrestler kneels on the mat. The top wrestler kneels behind the bottom wrestler and underhooks both arms from behind. The bottom person must battle away from the arms and face the top person. The top person must drive the bottom person to his stomach and hold him there. The top person cannot lock hands. You can make the game harder by having the bottom wrestler start in regular bottom position. The Switchers game can also be used to practice the hip heist. The game is the same as the one used for the breakdown, except the objective is simply to scramble into control over the opponent.